Today we're going to go ahead and take a look at a 2020 election prediction between Nancy Pelosi, of course you all know her, not so popular minority leader of the Democratic Party in the United States House of Representatives, of course against the incumbent president Donald Trump. So this election I do not see as contested whatsoever. This is a clear Donald Trump victory, just based off how many Americans disapprove of Nancy Pelosi and how much infighting she has pretty much caused for the Democratic Party. She is not really that popular amongst the Democrats as she should be. I mean, she represents them in Congress, yet most Democratic members have a little bit of a dispute with her. I'm not saying that most of them want her out of that position, but some of them definitely do have some things against her, and pretty much every Republican dislikes Nancy Pelosi in one way or another. So when we look at this map, this is going to be something that Donald Trump is going to do pretty well in. I mean, he's going to do well against a candidate like Nancy Pelosi because, again, when we look at her, she's not really that type of good female candidate that the Democrats want. I mean, Hillary Clinton would do better than Nancy Pelosi. And when it comes to 2020, yes, there are a whole number of factors that go against the president, but there also are a number of factors that would go against Nancy Pelosi, especially for being in Congress for an extremely long time, which Donald Trump would definitely capitalize on, and her whole pretty much disapproval from across the United States, being that top Democratic figure that most people have grown to dislike over time. So we'll start off with the states that are safe for the president, and that's most of the states that he won back in 2016. I really don't see this race as getting competitive. Keep in mind, Nancy Pelosi is probably one of the worst Democrats they could run in 2020, but again, she's not even on there because she doesn't really have a chance at the primaries at all. So right now we have 191 electoral votes for Donald Trump. Ohio and Iowa I'd probably leave in his column for right now. And then, of course, there are those usual Democratic states that probably aren't going to flip for right now. If you notice, Hawaii, California, these typical Democratic states that always hold their Democratic identity are going to remain in the Democratic column regardless of who the nominee is. Right now, I do see a Trump victory in North Carolina and Florida, which puts him at 259 electoral votes. And right now, this is probably one of the more realistic maps when it comes to this election. I mean, Nancy Pelosi is not going to win in a number of these swing states. She's pretty unpopular in almost all of them, if not all of them. And when we look at this map, it's not built in her favor. Usually the electoral map is built in the favor of the Democrats, but coming from a state like California where she cannot resonate with almost any voters, there's a difference. Kamala Harris is an African-American female, one who's a junior senator from California. She's not really part of the political establishment just yet, and she also represents a new type of Democrat that's been out here. Nancy Pelosi represents that older type of Democrat who rose to power during 2006 and comes from a state like California, especially with her firm opposition to the president and a few more radical stances than some other Democrats like to take. It doesn't make her a popular figure, especially across states that really care about the president or narrowly voted for him, but still hold on to some Trump-like sentiment and would be willing to vote for someone like Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders. They aren't so likely to vote for someone like Nancy Pelosi. So the entire Rust Belt, almost the entire Rust Belt, goes to Donald Trump. So that second district up in Maine and Maine at large I see going to the president, but of course, as usual, that first district remains in its Democratic identity. I do see Nancy Pelosi narrowly carrying the state of New Mexico, and Colorado I'm going to come back to, but Nevada I see the president narrowly carrying. Right now, New Hampshire, that one would also go to the president, along with the state of Minnesota, and this one puts him at 328 electoral votes, so a pretty considerable lead for the president. Virginia, I really do not see breaking away from its Democratic identity. Before I had Nancy Pelosi losing the state, but right now I still see Nancy Pelosi narrowly holding on to the state of Virginia only because of how Democratic the state has gotten, and really Democrats would be focusing on the state because they're not going to be focusing on the Rust Belt. They're going to be focusing on states just to hold on to them in this election. Colorado, that's a pure toss-up in my opinion. Right now, you could argue it either way, but I'm going to leave that one in the Pelosi column. Either way, Donald Trump wins. He wins handily, and he wins with 328 electoral votes, which is 22 more than what he won back in 2016, so it's a pretty good lead for him compared to Nancy Pelosi's 210 electoral votes. So Colorado and Virginia right now, I'm going to leave under the toss-up column for right now, but I have them narrowly leaning in the Pelosi column. Thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I'll see you all tomorrow.